Now it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Spark. He is on Zoom. He is the founder of the Easier Ways online community. He's a musician, an artist, a writer. Oh yes, you might want to turn around. He's going to talk to us about the wisdom of the soul, how hitting bottom showed him that despite being an intelligent person, he needed to unlearn things that were causing him harm and to trust his knowledge less and his inner knowing more. So please welcome Randy Hyden, our speaker Spark.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure. It's a privilege to be here with you today, and especially on the occasion of the anniversary of your founding. I want to thank Mike for introducing me to Ken and Janet and such. I've had wonderful conversations with members of this congregation before, and wow, when it was said to me, it's like, would you be interested in sharing a little bit of your story with the group? Yeah, it felt like the most natural thing to do, because I was given so much love from these individuals that, one, I knew that this was a group of people that were heart-centered, and one of people that I don't know, just you give and receive love in a way that is special to me. So what I'd like to do is mention that one, I can't keep within 20 minutes sharing my story. There's so much to share, so many miracles that have befallen me. What I'd like to begin with is a prayer that some of you may be familiar with, that was shared with me when I was at my bottom. I just celebrated an anniversary for myself, the milestone of 18 years of continuous sobriety. And this prayer was given to me in a time of desperation. You may have heard of it called the Serenity Prayer. So I am certainly, if you want to join in or just absorb the blessing. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, knowing that pain is the pathway to peace. So yeah, is what my original concept of this talk was about clearing away the wreckage of the past. And again, what I mean by that is all the thoughts, all my insecurities, all my regrets, my resentments, and connecting with a part of myself that has always been with me. I believe that's with all of us. I use the word soul to describe it. You may use whatever words you want. But it speaks to me in a way that I like to use the word as wisdom. And I don't refer to wisdom as lessons learned over time. It's not the wisdom that, you sit on the porch and you whittle with your dog and you tell your grandkids about. This is something that's innate with us, and it can guide us. Or again, I know it's guided me when I can get out of my head as much and just connect with this part of me. So in reference to the prayer, God, you may use that word. You may use words like universe, source, love. But there's something bigger that is beyond my vocabulary. This energy that created the universe. Again, if there is a Big Bang, as scientists say, then what was the catalyst for that? Was there a Big Banger? Some kind of energy started all this. And I believe that same energy is what's maintained this this universe. That it sustains life. It actually, if we look and reflect upon it, it's about expanding and growing. Again, scientists talk about the expansion of the universe. It's really beyond my comprehension. But going from the macro to the micro of looking at nature around us, again, how we have cycles of the seasons as we're entering into the winter solstice. We know that there's times of dormancy. There is times of prosperity. The fruit. There's the time to do the work, and there's the time for the harvest. And then, of course, there is for ourselves. It was mentioned earlier, as far as being generous and giving to those that are in need. We've all been times when we've been humbled, and we weren't necessarily the strongest or the more successful or the smartest person in the room. There was moments that, if we were honest with ourselves, it was quite humbling. And apparently, that is just part of what the story is. But somewhere along the line, I thought, that I knew better. I was smarter. I was stronger than everyone. And essentially, I was God. Now, I wouldn't be so arrogant to proclaim that, but I thought that I could be the one that could make things happen, and I could sustain things, and I can just, I don't know, be special and be above it all. And now I know a lot of that did have to do with my insecurities, my feelings of inadequate. I grew up in a household where my father practiced reverse psychology, or his attempt at it. His demonstration of love was trying to belittle me and to get me to respond in a way that he wanted. And I always felt less than others. And I was always trying to seek out validation from my parents and from friends. And I was never successful. And eventually came to the point of, why try? And I just gave up. And that was basically is what I'm getting at. It didn't mean that I didn't stop trying. I just stopped, I don't know, being myself. I still tried to fit in. I still wanted to be liked and loved and stuff. But I did that in a way that was described as codependency. So anyway, what I'm getting at is that first line of that prayer is, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. That was an acceptance of all the things I've shared, and much, much more. As I said, I could go on probably for several hours of talking about these things. But the simple truth is, there is something greater than myself that sustains my life, your life, all life, and will allow this life to go through cycles, through the hardships and such. But if I can calm my busy mind, I can connect with this deeper wisdom. Again, it is not an intelligence, it is not knowledge, it is a knowing deep in my bones and such, that this is love. And again, it's not the many forms of love, the love of generosity, the love of romance, the love a parent gives a child. It's something, again, that I have no word for, but I hope everyone who hears these words has had at least just one moment of knowing that everything's okay. And then the next line, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, the courage to change the things I can. Now, that is referring to myself. Again, people, places, and things were not to my satisfaction. Pretty much all the time. And I have a hypothesis. A lot of that had to do is because if I could think about you and what's wrong with you and what's wrong with the world, I don't focus on what I need to correct and what I need to adjust. So through having a little bit of peace of mind and getting through all this noise of judgment and condemnation, I was able to connect with something, as I mentioned, deeper. But I had to go through. If you've ever seen the illustration of the iceberg, and the iceberg that sticks out of the water, I would describe as this conscious mind of all this thinking I've been doing. And below the waterline we talk about that being subconscious thinking. And what I'm referring to is going to the point where I'm going below the waterline and I'm going deeper and deeper. And as if you can picture in your mind's eye, that iceberg, as it gets deeper and deeper, that would be this unconscious silence beneath all the life experiences, my interpretations, my judgments, my again, just the noise of my mind. There's a stillness down there. And that is something that, again, is I find it difficult to speak about. But if I calm my busy mind, it arises in a place that brings me this peace. Okay. And I know that, yeah, the things will always, frankly, be less than I prefer. I will always be less than I prefer. And there's still, despite that, there's an okayness. Now, that does not mean that there's a complacency myself. I do my best to begin each day with this silencing of the mind to connect with something deeper than my conscious thinking. And I live each day the best I can, trying to more rely upon the guidance from what's within me, which is deeper than my thinking mind, and direct me to actions that, frankly, are counter to the way I lived all my life, the way I was taught by my parents, my peers. Just again, if you're a person who spent time in the Bible, there is a famous book called Romans, chapter 12, verse 2. Do not conform to the ways of the world, but be transformed by a renewing of your mind, so you know God's good and perfect will for your life. And that's what I'm referring to. I cannot think my way into a new way living. I must live my way into a new way of thinking. And by doing actions that, at first glance, just basically, if I'm overwhelmed and confused, I could just do the quite opposite of what I would normally do. As I said, this all came to me where the catalyst was not by virtue, but by circumstance. It hit bottom, and I needed to get sober if I was going to survive. So again, if I wanted to drink, what's the opposite? Don't. Wanted to argue and yell with my wife? Don't. I didn't want to go to work. Go to work. Didn't want to go to an AA meeting. Go to a meeting and such. So again, it was just rather simplistic, but also rather effective. And this worked very, very well until it didn't. Again, I was still very much in my egotistical mind directing me. And I made some choices. I left a good job. Was going to make a fortune in the mortgage industry. If anybody remembers, I got sober 2006. If everybody remembers what happened in 2007, the crash. Yeah, I was going into the mortgage industry about 60 days before everything crashed. And yeah, I just felt like I had made another huge mistake, and I couldn't blame it on getting wasted all the time. And things went, I could talk for hours, but things got progressively worse. And then one day, a man was able to see my misery and desperation. And he asked me, Randy, if you can't love yourself, can you let God love you? And I gritted my teeth and said, I guess that's not too big of a request. I said, good. Can you let God love you through this fellowship? So what I want to mention is such that we are surrounded with people that have, again, I believe all of us have this innate wisdom within us. We have this love and this, again, something that's beyond my comprehension, let alone vocabulary. But there is a part of us that I believe is God manifesting into this realm, this area. And they give it freely, without obligation. It's not transactional, because of course love is not transactional. And if I could let someone love me, that was my process of letting God love me. Now, I wish you could say is that one decision changed everything like a light switch, but I was still pretty emotionally immature, about probably, I don't know, 12-year-old. And if any of you have ever had 12-year-olds in your house, you know when they say, I want this. Daddy, if you really love me, you'll buy me a new iPhone. And you go, I love you very, very much, but you're not getting this new iPhone. So I was the little child that's saying to these people that were offering their love, if you really love me, you'd love me this way. And they always said, I love you and I'll never change. That will never change. But you're not getting love in the way that you demand. And this was, again, part of me understanding that I can't control how people love me. I can't control how God loves me. I can't change my past. I cannot control my past. I cannot control the truth. I cannot control other people. But I can let down my guard and I can stop resisting the love that is present in every day in the challenges. And again, I find that in the stillness of my mind, in this peace. And the last part of that prayer, right? The wisdom to know the difference. Again, this is what I'm speaking of. And again, I'm doing the best I can. I hope all of you've had a direct experience of this love I'm trying to describe where you just know. It's not empirical evidence. It's not science. It's not like I can tell you is mix 2 parts of this with 1 part of that, heat to a boil. And the next thing you know, you're going to get wisdom. You're going to get love. You're going to have something that transcends the egotistical mind that allows you to be at peace when the world is going crazy around you. But it's there. And it comes, and sometimes it comes quickly, sometimes slowly. But yeah, there's seasons and such where it seems like what used to work doesn't work anymore. And then there's times when it seems like, I don't know, you find a lucky penny every step you take. You know, if we're present, we're conscious, and we're living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, we can understand that this hardship is a way to this peace. And I don't understand why. I really don't understand why life has to be so hard. And for some people, it has to be really, really hard. I am fortunate enough that despite much of my difficulties, and of course, I had a part in all of it, I have not endured some of the things that people I've met in AA have. I have not had the physical, the sexual, the emotional torture that they have. But I have my own story. Again, I certainly, again, did not come to this out of virtue, but out of circumstance. It took what it took for me to hit a point where I decided that my way of thinking was no longer serving me. And at first I thought I needed to learn some things, but now over the course of time, again, it's unlearning these thoughts that no longer serve me or serve those that I want to be in relationship with. So if any of these words have resonated with you, and I certainly hope they have, I believe the next step is conversation. If not, maybe what we do is reach out where we can have Zoom conversations one-on-one or in small groups. This is a little unique because probably for the last 10 years, I've been the facilitator. I've been the host of conversations where people share with me, and I get to listen in a way that, again, it's beyond knowledge, but it's a knowing that God is with all of us, even when it's hard to see. When she love is so hard to see. So anyway, thank you for letting me share. My name is Randy. I'm grateful to be with you.